Good day, everyone. I am Nellan Hunt for We News. Today, we are talking about live streaming, pay-per-view, and I thought, why not bring in an expert? I mean, how much do I know? Today with us is Dan Rush, the CEO of Pay-Per-View Live Events. And we are accustomed to hearing about pay-per-view when it's a big sporting event or one particular event. Today, Dan is going to teach all of us how to become pay-per-view billionaires. No pressure, Dan. Welcome.
No pressure. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here. Well, let me see. When you talk about pay-per-view or pay-per-click to view something, that's what pay-per-view comes around. Um, but in our world, it's a little more than that because some people have positioned streaming as another pay-per-view, which it technically is, but
Mhm.
officially it's not. When we do pay-per-view, we do closed circuit television, linear channel pay-per-view events. So prime example, there's a few like you got HBO pay-per-view, Showtime pay-per-view, you got us pay-per-view live events, and
Mhm.
then there's other promoters who will partner up with a company like us to do a pay-per-view event for them. So prime example, if you're a promoter, you have a great show concept, um, you would talk to us. And when I say we would do the pay-per-view, that means we're going to actually position it for live television, live broadcasting on cable networks. And that's everything from like Comcast, Time Warner,
Mm.
um, Verizon, Ubiquity, all these different, even Digicel, even Flow. Those are
Mm.
partners of ours who will take our content and make it available to their regional customers who have cable. But then also we live stream that same event, meaning that so there's no disconnect, there's no real latency, maybe a little slag because you're live streaming it, but you're getting the same feed, which gives you the same quality. And being able that we've been doing this for so many years, it's been a very somewhat lucrative opportunity. Everybody now is beginning to see um, the benefit of positioning their content live for television because you got to
Mhm.
think about it. Even with COVID happening, people have just been stuck in the house and they're tired of watching Netflix. They're tired of watching Amazon. They want something new to watch. And the thing is, if there's something that's worthwhile for them to watch it on their cable, they're willing to pay for it. And that's what you concept of pay per view, right?
Right.
And and same thing. So the good thing about it now is that the industry has changed a little bit. People are becoming more aware of it, and they have great concepts, and they want the opportunity to benefit from it. So a good example, there is splits that are involved. So even if a promoter comes on with a content, but there's like 2,000 different networks who will basically display their show, and they all kind of have a piece of the pie in a sense.
Okay.
So a good example, promoter comes to me, wants a show put on, there's usually a certain spirit that that promoter will take away from the product, but then also because if they tie in streaming, they also take another great percentage of the product. But at the end of the day, it's now visible to a large audience, and that could be anywhere from 350 million eyeballs to a global scenario, depending how much marketing and things like that have been put in place to support it. So it's a good thing. So prime example, when Mike Tyson just came out of retirement to do this little boxing event, right?
Mhm.
It was a paid per view event. Um, I can easily say, yeah, he made $20 million as a signing bonus, plus whatever money after that. The networks made money too, as well as the promoter. But that was a pay-per-view event, right?
Dan, let me ask you
And then
this.
there's probably
You're
yeah.
saying he got the sign-on bonus. The networks made all this money. Is this simply by people paying to see this and
That is
sponsorship and
correct.
that sort of
So
thing? That blows my mind.
And sponsorship. Yeah. So just think about this. I'll give you a simple pro forma. You could do an event for $29.99. You do the math. $29.99 with 10,000 buys. And then I don't want to get into splits on live, video, but there's negotiation around it. If I had to say 50-50, then you think of that. 50 goes to all the networks and 50% goes to you. And you do a simple $29.99 for an event times 45,000 people buying it. Those are, you look at the numbers there. And whatever that number is, depending on your negotiation, you're walking away 50% of that. That's just from the cable side. Now let's talk about streaming.
Initial agreements.
Now streaming is still another avenue of revenue, right? So don't forget, you got the first night of your come-in buy of everybody's paying for it. You got cable buys and you got streaming buys, right? Your streaming is a little different because I can't really get into split numbers, but whatever you negotiate, you do the math again. $29.99 for your show versus times 45,000 buys. Whatever your split is, you're walking away with that, all right? And then that's just for that night. Don't forget, now we turn your event into a VOD offer.
A what?
Which is VOD, which is called video on demand.
Right.
So that means I position it or another network position it as a video on demand. That turns in what I call it revolving residuals, because I can keep your show on for another 3 months, 6 months.
And then every time someone wants to see it, they pay to watch it.
Exactly.
You see, that Dan, you knew the deal. Who else would I talk to? I mean, this is an amazing education. Dan, do not say anymore. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll continue to talk about how at the end of this show, I am now going to be a multimedia billionaire. No pressure. Everyone stay tuned. You're watching Me News.
I just want my percentage.
We'll be right back.
Welcome, my partner. Welcome, farmer. Welcome to we home. Thank you. Yes. You ready? Yeah. You ready? There we go. I go bring my friends and you go bring your friends and me friends will online together. Just decide who wants the line in this mess. Right here in the back. Licky tingy, these are lines and the beating I and right here in the back. Go straight in the kitchen, grab a pot and then say, well, every backyard must have an announcer, someone who will keep the order to give you house rules and safety tips. So when you wind down, know you win the break. We don't need no big promoter, the neighbors won't be with sponsor. So when you see the police and them come get something right here in the back. Well, every yard must have a wine, a hot girl to show up she bumper. Who will go down, start wine and roll like Alison Hines. We don't need no big promoter. The neighbors don't be with sponsor. When you see the police and them green up, bashing up the street, we here in the back. Licky tingy, Israel nice and repeat it right here in the back. Go straight in the kitchen, grab a pot and then start eating. You ready? Yeah. You ready? Give me the first one. What we doing? Bing, 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 bing. Second one. Let's have a third one. Yeah, what is the third one?
Welcome back. I'm Alan Hunt. You're watching We News. Dan Rush is teaching us how people view live streaming and all those sorts of things work. Of course, you know, there are industry secrets I know you can't tell us, but how did you get into live event streaming and that sort of thing, so that people who might be interested in looking at different revenue streams that might be not as traditional as, let's say, an office job or that sort of thing might think, you know, I have the time, I have the connections to the technology, why not try something different? How did you start People View Live events?
Yeah, I've been in the industry for more than 15 years, and I worked at Comcast, and I've been in the tech world and looked at a lot of innovative things of how what was coming in the pipeline, and just really studying that information and thinking about, as an entrepreneur, like, how can I be part of this as a brown person or African American person to put my foot in this industry and be part of it and make it happen
Mm.
and get the respect too, because it's a challenging dog eat dog type of industry, because you have a lot of big companies who have millions of dollars behind it, and you don't even know who they are, first and foremost. Excuse me, I have my little puppy floating around. And people don't even know that. So it just becomes very challenging to a certain perspective how to
Right.
position that information part of it. So in my scenario, an opportunity came up to work with some really high individuals that were in the industry. I brought a scenario to them to do a large concert, work with a good guy, very, very wealthy individual, but he didn't understand the concert business in the sense of how to make it become pay-per-view. And he gave me the challenge. And I positioned that challenge for him to make it live and available across the Caribbean, in the UK, across all Northeast. And we made it happen. So we had, I positioned everything from working with the marketing teams, the strategy approaches on how to market it, and then making sure that the staging and lighting was all in alignment for what it was going to look like on live television.
Mm.
And when I took on that challenge, we eventually had 14 million people come look at this concert.
Wow.
So not all of them bought it. So not everybody purchased it, but just those numbers and analytics to come in with 14 million people off of my brain power to position this concert event and get it on television, I knew I was in something big, and I wasn't going to stop from there. And it just
Wow.
continued to keep. So sponsorships and partnerships and understanding change of technology has been my forte, what allows my company, Pay-Per-View Live Events, to stay in existence.
When you are,
So we just keep it going.
let's say I want to reach as broad an audience as possible. And I said, Dan, I'm putting on a concert next week. It will be an hour long. Without divulging your own, little secrets, walk me through from beginning to end, maybe on a superficial level. How do I do that? How do I bring this to as many people as possible? And all I know is I want to sing next week for an hour, and I want as many people to see this, and I want to make some kind of money from this as well.
Sure. So first thing I would do is, like, what kind of budget are you working with, right? Because it's important for me when I say budget, not just, yes, as a company, we get paid for our services, but it's more of a strategic logistic approach. Because I want to say, if you have a certain budget, then I know how to split that money to a certain way to benefit you. So if I can say, okay, hey, you have a certain amount of money, I may take a percentage of that to make sure that we get the media perspectives in place, so that if I need to do push notification for your event to make sure that we can get some awareness that this show is about to happen, that's great. The second thing would be how much, if you're going to be singing, I want to know what kind of production you want to really have around it. Because then that allows me to say, should I just staff it with just 3 cameras? Should I bring in special cameras to make sure you look your best? Because it's all about quality. I mean, nobody wants to see standard definition anymore. We're beyond that, right? So we need HD or 4K or 5K, whatever you want to call it, but we need the best quality that makes you look good. So then from there, and then the most final point is figuring out your demographic of people that you believe will love your music. So then we kind of sit down, do a round table to talk through that. And then we'll build out a little marketing campaign, and then we'll push your promos and your assets out there to make sure that we're hitting your target audience, who will now know that you're live and available to be watched on this specific platform. And then from there, we'll target a time frame to keep that campaign going until the day of your event.
You know, you make it
And then maybe a
sound
little
so
bit after,
easy.
because
you make this sound so easy. I want to plan a concert and sing for an hour, but I'll tell you this now, I have to protect your identity, because my friends will call you up and beg you, please don't do it. Do not let them sing, and please do not show that to the world. Dan, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up with where the technology is going. Everyone, you're watching We News, and Nellen Hunt is speaking with Dan Rush today. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, more about pay-per-view.
Start it up for a minute, please. We have somebody here celebrating their birthday tonight. You hear that? So I want you to party extra hard to this one. All you ready for this one? Give me the thing, so. The promoter. See that trust in there? Keep that. You see that curtain there? We don't need your fancy stage. One century reaching your fantasy nice. Boy, hands in the sky, we bring the vibe. Once we reach in your fantasy nice. Boy, they can't deny we bring the vibe. And I don't mean to be bossy. They can't party like the way. And so, watch your man so goddamn. For sure and truly, they can't party like that. Don't matter time, guess. What time?
Oh gosh, oh jam, feel like they're the sweetest woman.
The sweetest way. Oh Lord, mama. Togetherness and the love it so
sure.
Watch it, put your love in the air, so.
And we don't care. This kind of energy, Lord, it rain. Watch how every hand up in the air.
And in the air.
Give me a jump and wave.
So we go to
One,
the head, people.
One century reaching your vectors.
Nice face.
Boy, hands in the sky, we bring the vibe. Once we reach in your vectors, nice face.
Yeah.
Boy, they can't deny we bring the vibe. And I don't mean to be bold. They can't party like we.
They can't party, no.
Watch your man so goddamn. For sure and truly,
They can't party like we. Listen, this vibe is infectious, you know.
Tell them.
Watch the vibe we bring. We's the baddest thing, yeah.
For real.
I can put my head on a block, whoa.
But the hardest thing, once we start this
thing,
what's the problem?
Listen,
We just never know when to stop, and we don't care.
at all.
This kind of energy, Lord, it rain. Watch out, every hand up
Oh, you
in the
take a
air.
jump up for voice on the board there.
Give me a jump and all you. 1, 2. One century reaching your vectors.
Nice face.
Boy, hands in the sky, we bring the vibe. Once we reach in your vectors,
Nice face, yeah.
we all
Boy,
under one roof. Give me a jump,
I don't mean to be bossy, but
They can't party like we.
they can't party, no.
Watch your man so goddamn. We for sure actually.
They can't party like we.
Don't matter time or day.
Keep the vibe bubbling. So,
You see that just in there?
keep that,
You see that curtain there?
keep that.
You see all of that fat foot looking nice, boy,
You
looking
like this,
nice.
eh? Keep that.
You see that line array?
You see that?
Everybody
Yo.
start to jump.
We don't need that.
What's Caribbean people reaching your 20s? Niceness, yeah, boy, boy. Hands in the sky, we bring the. What's the reaching your 20s? Niceness, yeah, boy, boy. They can't deny, we bring the vibe. And I don't mean to be bossy, but they can't party like they can't party, no, no, no. What's your man so content? Tell them the truth. But sure not Trinity. They can't party like way. No matter time or day, we can start to tell it. Can't even tell it. Can't even tell it. Voice it, yeah. I want to dance them, Lord, yeah. Oh, Lord, the way you give them. Oh, Lord, the way you give them. Give me the rhythm. Don't day, don't gotta get it, 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 yeah. Guess. Voice it.
Blessed earth strong, my brother. Blessed earth strong.
Give thanks.
We home, we
Love
home,
and
we
love.
home. We linemen, you don't know.
Welcome everyone, you're watching We News. I'm Nalan Hunt. Today we are speaking with Dan Rush, the CEO of People View Live Events. Dan has been teaching us. I hope everyone has been listening. Not that I want you out there competing with him because he's a great guy doing a wonderful job. He's even willing to bring my 1-hour concert to the world, but that's another story for another day. Dan, thanks so much for your time. With everything that is going on now and the way media and technology seems to constantly, literally be changing every day, is there room, life, and a future for live streaming, People View Live? Because we are seeing a situation now where the film studios now are releasing everything on their streaming platforms, and that's been causing tension with the cinemas, because the cinemas are saying, well, if you're showing it there, by the time your audience gets done with it, you have 20 people watching it, we'll get 5. But are they making that kind of money from the live streaming, from the streaming on their own platforms before it goes to theater?
Yeah, it's a challenging war that's happening right now between the cinemas and live streaming platforms. You know, we knew this was going to happen because everything is becoming virtual. So it's almost like they tuned in to recognize that people once are scared because of the COVID, and now like, hey, let's flip the switch and make it available to folks in their house, right? And we'll still brand it up with our company. And wherever the dice rolls and falls in reference to the cinemas, that's a small chain because that's just, you know, brick and mortar to them. But their focus should be the consumer in the house, right? Because that's the guy that pays the bill and it's quicker access to them while they're in the house. So that's why they have switched the gears to make everything virtual, still branding themselves and making the content available for them in their house, because why not? And that's what you call a pivoting approach to keep your consumer happy and continue to still make money, because people could have easily just shut it off and say, I'm not buying it. So you think about it, they're paying for a subscription and they're paying for the potential payment of watching a show that they may price point it.
When Mulan was released, they said, we're pre-releasing it and anybody who wants to watch it could pay this amount. And then anybody who has the subscription could then wait for it to become available on a wider audience availability. How do they recoup their money when they don't have the cinemas to push the movie daily for weeks and weeks and weeks when it initially is released? What's the difference there? When
they produced the Mulan movie and they decided to make it as a streaming offer because of the cinema dilemma, the question is, will it continue to be this way, or?
What's the profitability when people just have to wait if they already have the subscription and they don't want to pay for the pre-release viewing?
So it's a catch-22, because what they do is provide you more content around that. So while that one is, let's just say this is the premiere of something, and they're still working through the logistics of when it may be available in the cinema side. And they don't know because one moment we were almost ready to go live with a lot of different changes, but then COVID still seemed to resurge. So again, that's why they had to repivot it back to making it available for OTT, right, or streaming. And the profitability is that there may be some gain and losses depending on maybe the first week of they releasing it, and then after that it drops off. So then what they do is flourish you with more additional new content, so they don't lose the audience. They don't lose the gain of people buying the subscription. So that's why they keep, pumping out new different shows or new things that intrigue the audience to stay on that subscription and channel.
Dan, today has been a wonderful education. I don't know if I want to become a live streaming mogul as yet. I have to go back and do a ton of homework. But, I want to say thank you so very, very much for your time. Thank you for teaching us and explaining it to us, because it sounds like such a simple facet of our media experience in the world now, when there is so much people like you who are doing what you're doing to make it look simple, to bring it to us packaged and ready. And you are doing the work. You are doing the groundwork. You are doing the grunt work. You're doing the hard work. So kudos to you for understanding where the technology is taking us and being able to do it. And congratulations. I hope you thrive and flourish, and remember us little people when you're passing us in the airport on the way to your private jet.
We're all one. I mean, but thank you so much. I really feel I'm blessed that you guys took the opportunity to reach out to me, and I was glad if I was able to provide some insight. And I'd love to talk again one day, show you some other good things we got going on.
Certainly. Everyone, we've been speaking with Dan Rush, CEO of Pay-Per-View Live Events. We talked about pay-per-viewing, live streaming, media, content, online working. I hope you guys have enjoyed receiving this information as much as we have enjoyed bringing it to you. I hope everyone has learned something about how all of this works. I still have a lot of homework to do because I'm so interested in how this has just exploded, and we've just sat back as an audience and a consumer and said, we'll accept it. On behalf of everyone here at We News, I'm saying Nellen Hunt. This is Nellen Hunt saying thank you for watching. Stay safe.